This is Sam's book.
That's not true. We went shopping. In today's video, we have decided that rather than me making more of the plans about what book we're reading next, normally me coming up with what book we should read or like options, and then we agree. Obviously, she's not forced to read books that she doesn't like. Today, we decided that it's gonna be all Sam, and she's the one that's gonna pick everything. We're gonna do 2 books today. So we're at the Barnes & Noble, and we're gonna go through and see what books that she wants. She has no idea
none at all
what books she wants, so it's gonna be a surprise to everyone.
We'll see
what she's gonna pick. I have no veto power, so she can pick literally anything she wants. I don't know, I don't want to give any influence though, because I want you to pick, but I will remind you that normally I don't read certain genres that you do want to read, and so maybe this would be a time to pick one of those. We're gonna go in. I'm gonna try to get clips on my phone just because I really don't want to get in trouble for filming where I'm not supposed to. So if the quality drastically changes while we're filming in there, it's because it did.
Hello.
So the deed has been done. She picked out her books. It took a little longer than we thought because we weren't finding anything.
Yeah.
And I was trying not to get involved. And then I saw something. I picked up a book like Goon and was like, it's kind of good, you know? And I was thinking it. But then she picked it and then she liked it. So I'm not counting that as cheatery because it wasn't my fault that I liked it. I didn't pick it.
No.
I just was like, oh, I said we should put that for like next time, and then she couldn't find anything else, so we picked it.
Yeah,
that
was the best option.
That's not cheating.
And I can be a bit indecisive.
Yeah, that's the other thing, which is normally why she doesn't pick the books. But it's a book that she picked on her own. Like, I had nothing to do with this book. So basically, it's about this girl. She has this monster friend who like helps her out, I think it's like keeps her secrets, protects her, something like that. And then she confronts like this mysterious highway guy, and everything takes a turn. And then the highway guy is actually the king's nephew, and like it's getting crazy from there on. And it's a duology, but we only got the first book, obviously. And then this is the book that I found without trying to find. Even though this is funny because this is the book that was in the section that you have been trying to get me to, and I never like anything, and so that's funny how that turned out. But basically, it's about this girl who, she's a high school senior, and her friend drops dead in front of this guy. And there's all this trauma involved, blah, blah, blah. Moving forward, this girl, her name is Maya, she's living off with her boyfriend. She has a whole rest of her life, whatever. And then she sees this YouTube video of another girl dropping dead in front of the same guy. And spooky. She goes back and to where this originally happened, and everything comes about. So those are the 2 that she picked. We're gonna start heading home now because it's getting toasty up in this car, and we have the air off so that you can hear us, but I'm literally melting. So we're gonna go, and then you'll see us when we start this video up. We're doing this a little earlier, so it'll be like maybe a couple days or so, but see you when we actually start the video. We've only read like a couple chapters of this so far, and I feel like it's actually going to be good. I'm pretty excited about it. I felt like I wasn't really in the mood for the books that she picked. I normally am not in the mood for these kinds of books, like thriller-y kind of books, but I'm the one that saw this originally and thought that it was good, so I guess that made it easier. I really like the writing style. I like the way that the author is writing. It's definitely a book that like you're going to be able to just like blow through, so that's really kind of what I needed out of a book that's this genre. So it's 10:27 right now. Sam doesn't get home until maybe like 2ish, maybe 1:30. I'm very curious to see how much of this book I can get through while she's gone. She gave me full permission to read the whole thing without her if I get to that point. So it's around 300 pages and I'm on page 18. So I'm not very far. I believe in myself that I could get pretty far. I want to at least get halfway through the book by the time she gets home. That's my goal. And we're pretty fast readers, so I feel like that's something that's attainable. I'm gonna try to start reading this and see how far I can get. I feel like I've read this already. This is Sam's book. Good thing I actually kept what page she was on, because that would have sucked. Okay, but now, and for reference, I'm on page 26. I've gotten to page 71 and it's still good, but I think I'm starting to get a little confused when it goes back and forth between present and past. Because it's third person, it's not really, I don't know how to say this, but one, I always feel disconnected when it's third person. Because it's going back and forth, I feel like it's taking me a second to register like what they're even talking about. And because it's sort of like a mystery thriller kind of vibe, I'm already trying to piece stuff together as it is, and so I feel like the back and forth is kind of getting me a little confused because there's no markers on the page or anything to tell you that it's going back. You just start reading it and then realizing that it's talking about something in the past. So I don't really love that aspect of it, and it's kind of starting to slow down. At first I was more interested than I am now, but I feel like it'll pick up more once stuff starts happening. Right now, because I'm still so early, they're still building up what the book's even about. I'm kind of curious to see where it's going to go from here because everything involved with like the murder, possible murder, I'm very curious to see how they're going to make it into something more than what it is. What happens with the girls that are around this guy, they just spontaneously drop and coroners aren't even able to figure out what it is. And so part of me is really hoping that it's something that is actually a real thing. Like, I hope that he's actually killing them with like something of this world, because if it ends up being he's possessed or something like that, I'm definitely gonna be, I guess, disappointed, because I wanted it to be something real, you know, like something that we could have actually figured out. If it's something that, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? Like, I want it to be something that we could have actually guessed. So I'm hoping it's something like that, but I'm gonna keep reading and see how it goes. But it's definitely going slower than I thought, because now it's already 11:20 and I really haven't gotten that far. But it's just kind of hard and I'm getting sleepy because it's not a book that's like very compelling. Like, it's not a book that's like keeping me going. I was expecting it to stay, but it was like going up and being good, and then now I'm just like back in a lull. So hopefully it picks up soon, but I don't know. We finished, but we can't talk right now because it's late. What for? Talk to you tomorrow.
Just me and my crew hanging out over here. Don't mind us.
What?
Finished the book yesterday.
Yes, we did. We finished it late last night and we weren't able to talk right after we finished it just because it was super late and we didn't want to start recording and stuff. We gave it, I think you said that you were giving it a 4.
I guess if I'm comparing it to like other books, maybe a 3.
3.5?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking 3.5. I think that's what I'm going to keep it at. 3.5, but on Goodreads, because you can't do halves, I think I'm going to put it as a 3. It was good. It wasn't anything life-altering, and that's why I don't want to give it a 4.
Yeah.
Because 4, I think, is like an amazing book, but just didn't give me the feels, and then 5 is like killed me, you know?
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm gonna stick to a 3.5, but then 3 on Goodreads. It was good. The thing that I thought the most of, like the entire time we were reading it, I just kept thinking of how it felt more like a mystery than a thriller. There was like 1 or 2 times that I was like, oh, kind of spooked.
More mystery kind of spooks.
Trigger warning, if you are not okay with any kind of addiction, talk, anything like that, don't read this book. She is actively going through withdrawal and she's still drinking, and so she feels sick, and there was a lot of that talk, whereas I really just wanted to hear about the mystery side of it.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't going into it going for that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's a topic that needs to be talked about, but it's just I wasn't expecting it to be that important to the story and that big.
But it's definitely like a pretty decent book, honestly.
Yeah, it got rated pretty low on Goodreads, and I feel like people were expecting more from it than it was possibly gonna give. I mean, when you read the back of a book, I feel like you have to take into consideration when you look at the story and or like whatever it's supposed to be about, and you see the size of the book. Like, could you grab the book? It's in the third drawer. There's only so much that you can expect from a book this big. Like, it was 317 pages. You really think that it's going to go into all this detail and be this ginormous, like, this is like a YA size book.
Yeah.
It's not a YA, but like, that's the size of it. So I feel like there were people that I was seeing the reviews and they were going into so much depth about how it wasn't enough.
But like, you can't expect enough when it's that big.
Right. I mean, yes, obviously it could have gone more into detail, but I feel like it was just a nice...
It was a nice little read, honestly.
Yeah.
And if...
It's a good palate cleanser.
Yeah.
It's a good way to have a different genre without going too far into it. Like, if you're only kind of in the mood for a mystery,
yeah,
and you don't want to have something that you're really trying to crack the codes,
yeah.
you just want something that's kind of...
Like, I basically finished it in one day. Like,
yeah.
It's not anything crazy.
Yeah.
And I think if it was bigger, then I would be expecting more from it.
Yeah.
But it's not.
But
so
you see
like,
what it is. I don't know. To me, I just think that you have to see it for what it is going from the start. Like, if you read the back and it's a pretty small book, you know that there's only going to be a little amount of a lot of details, you know? It's not going to go that far into stuff. So I feel like people just go kind of overboard of what they're expecting from the start.
I think the only thing that makes sense is that there is so much about her addiction and stuff in here for it being such a short story.
Yes.
Like, obviously, like, that's good to talk about and everything, but I don't know.
It took away from what we were actually trying to go through.
Yeah.
There were definitely some parts that were slow. So the way it's structured is you're seeing her, how she's living her life 7 years after the incident, and then around every other chapter, it's going back
to
from
right
before the incident, and then both of those timelines are going as you're reading the book.
Yeah.
I mean, and that part was interesting and everything. I liked seeing everything live, but it did make it kind of confusing in the beginning. But I think that it helped towards the end of it. One, it helped keep the book flowing. And two, I think at the end, it kept it kind of confusing enough in like the mystery sense of it that I wasn't able to immediately guess what was going to be going on because I was so focused on the fact that it was going back and forth. You're trying to piece together two different things, like two different timelines of what's happening or whatever, because there's two murders technically.
Yeah.
So you're kind of trying to solve both at the same time, going back and forth, centered around the same guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I think we're going to be reading the next book. Could you grab it? I think it's One Dark Window.
One Dark Window.
One Dark Window. You had said that this was something that you wanted to read for a while.
I put it in my to be read like probably a month ago. I saw it on Goodreads.
The way that it looks and the way it feels, I don't know, the vibe of it reminds me of For the Wolf, even though it's nothing like it.
Yeah, I think that's what caught my eyes.
But the Red Riding Hood look is very similar. If you haven't read For the Wolf by, I don't know her name, but it's a duology. It was popular enough to be like a big stack at Barnes & Noble maybe like a year ago.
By Hannah Witten. There it is.
That book, that duology,
So
we loved it. I totally recommend reading that if you're in the mood for like a shorter fantasy story.
interesting. That book only got 3.62 on Goodreads.
Oh,
We gave it like a 5.
We gave it a 5. We thought that it was amazing because they're around this size, both of them, or maybe a little bigger.
A little, maybe around this.
We really like that book, and that's reminded me of this one, even though they have nothing to do with each other.
But the cover did immediately. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, obviously, it's a girl and with some spooky fantasy looks in a red thing.
Yeah.
But For the Wolf is a retelling-ish of Red Riding Hood story. Anyways, back to this one. Her sister also has this book. Copying her, even though we're not, but it just feels that way. Oh, why is he so cute? This is Apollo. He rarely gets shown because he's obsessed with Sam's mom, but look at him. He's sweepy. We're gonna read and we're gonna hope that this is, what did this have on Goodreads?
4.32.
Ah,
It's a lot better than the past 2 books we've read.
so it should be a sleigh. We'll see. Off to reading we go. We went shopping. It wasn't completely our fault because we had to go to the bookstore anyway, but that doesn't change the fact that we bought books. We could have gone and not done what we did, but we did. So we originally were going to go to the bookstore with my little sisters because they read as well. Or at least one of my younger sisters is into reading. We took her to the bookstore, but then that just meant that we had to go to the bookstore. I thought I'd give a little book haul because I normally just show up with the books instead of showing you them before the videos all about them. So we went to Barnes & Noble. That's our Holy Land. And I think, no, all of these are from Barnes & Noble. But sometimes we shop at half-price books. But that store kind of overwhelms me. I'm a lot better at looking at books when they're on tables, and Barnes & Noble does that more often than other bookstores, I think. We started off by getting Kingdom of the Wicked. This is the first book in a series by Carrie Maniscalco. We had read Throne of the Fallen before reading this series. We haven't read any of these books yet. And these are the YA trilogy about the world prior to Throne of the Fallen, but you didn't need to read these before you read Throne of the Fallen. But because there's going to be a second book, like Throne of the Fallen is now kind of going into like a series rather than just a standalone, we wanted to read these to get a full grasp of the world, because this is talking about wrath versus talking about Prince Envy was Throne of the Fallen, and I think the next one is Gluttony.
Gluttony.
It is? Yeah. Yeah. I know my books. Anyways, the next book is going to be about Throne of Gluttony. I had a moment of feeling like I knew what was going on.
Gluttony.
Yes. My moment of being like, was like 2 seconds. Anyways, it's going to be about Prince Gluttony. But this is about Prince Wrath. Throne of the Fallen was Envy, and now it's going to be Gluttony. So we wanted to read these 3 to make sure that we know everything that's going on, because we loved Throne of the Fallen. We rated it 5 stars. Loved it. Next book is called Nevernight by J. Kristoff. We haven't read anything by this author, and we literally saw this as we were leaving. We had originally only grabbed 1 book from that particular Barnes & Noble, because this is 2 trips. But we had originally only grabbed the next book I'm going to show you, and then literally as we're standing in line, I was like, oh, what's this? And then we picked up this book. So anyways, so this one is about more like assassins. Yeah, she enters into like this group of assassins after running off from some sort of failed rebellion. The words are so much tinier than I remember.
They're tiny.
But I didn't even grasp, like, you said that they were tiny, but
it's bad.
Rip. It's over 400, it's like just barely over 400 pages. And the font, like, I don't want to show anything that's spoiler. But here I go to like chapter 1. Look at that. Compared to like, oh my god.
I know, it's
I'm gonna
bad.
cry. Okay, it's hard to tell the difference. But like, are you able to tell? Are you able to tell what I'm saying? Probably not. You can.
It's like font 11 versus font like 14.
Yes. Yes. No, that's exactly 11 versus 14, which is like a big freaking difference. Anyways, so we got this book. Then we got this, which I don't like the texture of these books. It's kind of like a what's the word? What word am I looking for, love? Like almost velvety texture.
Yeah.
Ugh, I hate that. Anyways, got this one. But this is really exciting because we went to a Barnes & Noble that's by where my little sisters live, like with my mom and everything, that we've never gone to before. And anyway, they recently moved, so we're in an area that we normally don't go in. But the Barnes & Noble that's over there, we've never been to. And one, it was set up kind of funny. Like, it's in a corner space, so it was kind of interesting. But they had a whole stinking table of just romantasy versus fantasy section or romance section, like trying to whatever find both within like whatever. But there was a whole romantasy table. Are you kidding me? That should be minimum. That should be a minimum requirement, because romantasy is so different than regular romance, and it is so different than regular fantasy. Like, it is just top tier iconic. So anyways, that Barnes & Noble got bonus points for doing that work from the Lord himself. But this one's about, this is another bad copy. We have literally, we have been way too excited about getting books recently that we keep getting copies that are not good. Like, I mean, like, they're fine. We're gonna be able to read them, like, but when you go to a bookstore and you're buying a book, especially when they're brand new, like more expensive, you're trying to not have them look like you just threw them down the stairs. But we have not been doing that. Like, look at this. Look at that. What is that mark? I mean, obviously it was where a sticker used to be, but like that's all messed up, and like the side is like all scraped, like someone just scratched it. And then like the bottom of this is dented, and like you're not gonna be able to see this on camera, but like the back of this is all scratched. Oops. Anyways, so this is King of Battle and Blood by Adrian Isold, something like that. But yeah, it was on the romantasy section, and this one is about vampires, and the girl is trying to kill the guy that she's been forced into like an engagement with. That's the premise of that, which that sounds so interesting. And then Once Upon a Broken Heart. I know that this is popular. We have not read this or even heard anything about it. I was watching another booktuber's videos, and she was ranting about this. And I know it's part of a trilogy now. Yeah, trilogy. Oh, I didn't realize that this was the author that did Caraval?
Oh.
I didn't realize. I mean, I recognize the author Stephanie Garber, but I didn't realize that that's what that was from.
Oh.
Anyways, we haven't read that series either. That one doesn't interest us that much, but this one did. So, this is another one about a wedding. But she's trying to keep the person that she wants to be with from marrying someone else. And she's like bargaining with some Prince of Hearts character. I don't know. The girl I was watching, she made it sound like it was worth being absolutely obsessed with. So I took her word on it and we got it. So all of them are like, honestly, pretty similarly sized. Like, that's pretty funny. They're like all...
That is.
Like, and they go together pretty well. Like, that looks gorgeous.
The Nevernight one is a secret big boy. Oh.
Yeah. That's ridiculous. But, yeah, I want to give a little haul. We are, like, update on the book we're reading now. I'm jumping ahead to all these other books. What?
We are on page... about to start chapter 16.
We're about to start?
We're on 168.
Yeah, we're on page 168 of this book. If you don't remember, we're reading One Dark Window. It's really good. I don't think it's at the level of being a 5 yet, but it's definitely at a 4, I think. Thus far.
4 for sure.
But it's definitely been really interesting to hear. She's talking about, she's going on with her life or whatever, but she keeps having these conversations with the monster that's in her head. And it's creepy for sure, but it's honestly interesting to think of the fact that he knows what she's thinking, but she doesn't know what he's thinking necessarily. Like, he has more power than she does, magically and just as a creature, you know? He's a lot older than her or whatever, but I don't know. It's just weird when she's thinking something and then he slips into her mind. This isn't a spoiler. This is just like something that's going on. He's not like always there. So there are times that she's thinking and we're not hearing his thoughts. And then there are times where she'll say that she can feel him slipping into that side of her mind. And in my mind, I'm picturing, if anyone's ever watched the movie Inside Out, where inside this girl's head, like her memories and stuff, there's all those little characters, if you know what I'm talking about. I'm imagining like a whole apartment complex in her mind. And that this monster is like chilling in the living room, and then when she starts talking, he like moved on to the kitchen. Like, that's what I'm imagining. Which, it's kind of creepy, but it's also kind of funny. So, we're rating it a 4 right now. It's definitely a steady pace. And I like the premise of it because I haven't heard of something that involved the magic coming from cards, which is what this is. The magic that everyone has is coming from these little cards that in my mind, it's close to like the serious version of Pokemon or something, where they're able to trade or steal for these cards that they're able to pull magic from. So I think it's a pretty interesting premise. And we're gonna keep reading. It's good. We're going to another bookstore. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Here's the thing. I said we were going to the bookstore, but here's the thing. I tricked you. I wanted you to judge me. I wanted you to think that we were fools going to the bookstore too many times. But we only went to sell something. And we only got one book. And it was paid for by what we got. By what we sold.
Exactly. This is the book we got.
Yeah. Sam's been having her eye on that book, but it's more expensive. It's on like the more expensive end of books.
They only have it in paper,
They only have it in hardcover, and it's pretty expensive. So we just grabbed it because it was there, and it was a couple. How much cheaper was it?
It was 23 something here, and in Barnes & Noble it's like $29.99.
Yeah.
So about $6 off.
Yeah.
So,
but it was worth it in that regard. I mean, it has like a little bit of an indent, but still in better shape than the brand new books that we bought from Barnes & Noble.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we were good. We were good girls. This one time we were good girls. This one time.
You gotta give it to us.
Yeah, let us have our moment, okay? But what are we doing after this? Going to buy another copy. So,
That's still Okay.
Hypocrites. We're just hypocrites, okay? But if we don't buy more books, then we don't have enough books to do content. And then what would you watch?
Exactly.
It's read point. I'm so sorry. What would you over there watch? Exactly. Okay, bye. Hi guys. So I finished One Dark Window finally, and it was so good. And when I say so good, I mean 4.5 stars. Good. It was just shy of getting that 5 stars, but it was so good. I loved it. I loved every second of it. So if you don't know what this book was about, or if I didn't like fully explain it, I think I didn't really understand what it was about when Sam first picked it, and I was not excited about it based off of the back. But basically, there's this girl, her name is Elspeth, and she is considered infected. And what infected means is that you have magic within you that is uncontrollable to other people. So the way that the world works is there's these Providence cards that you're able to wield magic with, and if you don't have any of those cards, then you aren't able to use magic. But if you become infected with the magic, then you're able to use it at your discretion, at your disposal, whatever your gift is, whatever your magic is. So the royalty, the king and his guards, are actively hunting out people that are infected because he doesn't want them to have magic that's like uncontrollable. The main character, Elspeth, she is infected, and she is living her life trying to hide from everybody the fact that she was infected. So no one knows what her magic is. No one knows what's going on with her. All they know is a couple of her family members know what happened to her when she was young, and she's been living a lie this entire time. What you know from the very start, from like the back of the book, is there is a monster inside of her head that's like talking to her, interacting with her, and that's part of what she got from being infected. It was nothing like I've ever read before, and that made it even more interesting to me. When Sam first picked this book out, like I said, I was not in the mood to read it. She had been looking at, like, keeping her eye out for this for a while, and it just wasn't on my radar at all. I hadn't heard anyone talk about it, and from the back, I don't know, it just, the way that it was talking, it talks about like highwaymen that are people that are actively like, they're kind of like robbers, I guess is what you would describe them as. And I don't know, I just thought that it was gonna be like she gets taken away by the robber or something like that, but that's not what happens. Like, I wasn't reading the back well enough to like give it a fair shot. I just wasn't in the mood for what I thought this was, but I was totally wrong. It was so good. The entire time I was so invested, and for the first time in a really long time, I actually felt like I was able to fully picture what was happening. And Sam's sister is also reading this book, and she agreed with me that some of the scenes, well, majority of the scenes, but there were certain ones that it was like watching TV in my head. Like the way that the author writes is so seamless, is how I would describe it. It just felt seamless, like I was watching a show projecting in my head, because the way that she writes, it was so easy for me to like picture everything that was going on and feel like I was there. And the world is so digestible fantasy, so I really like that aspect of it. It made it a lot easier to read. That plus the writing style, I feel like if we weren't in the middle of the chaos of changing our room around, we would have blown right through this. It's only 392 pages. And the words, the fonts, like average to big. So if you're looking for something that only has one other book, I believe, so it's like a smaller series and easy to get into, but not necessarily YA, which I liked. The romance in this was still adult, you know, so you're not having like the YA romance, you know, but it's still like an easy to get into fantasy. I really, really recommend this. I really liked it. So in terms of smut, I would say this is probably like about a 3. There's definitely some scenes, but it's not super descriptive, and it's definitely not the main point. The romance is definitely in the book, but it's not necessarily the main part. I would say fantasy over romance of this versus romance over fantasy, but it's still together. You know what I'm saying? I can't wait to read the second one. We are definitely gonna read the second one. All in all, I feel like this is pretty successful. I feel like Sam did a good job picking out books. This was literally crazy because I definitely wouldn't have picked this up. I'm pretty sure she showed this to me a while ago, and even then I was like, no, it's not for me. I don't want to read it. So if we had not done this video, I would not have read this book, and this is a 4.5 star, a breaths away from a 5-star book, and I could have missed out on it because I just wasn't giving it a good chance. So have someone else pick your books for you, because this was legendary. This was still decent, so I would say this was a success. I would say Sam needs to pick our books more often because this was great. And the one that I didn't like that much was my pick. So all in all, I think Sam killed it. I think she did great. When I found out that the monster is actually the Shepherd King, I mean, I already had a feeling that he was going to be, I think like 50 pages prior to us finding out. I was saying out loud, like, I think I know what's going to happen. I think I know what's going to happen. So I wasn't shocked, but it was just one of those moments that even though I knew it was coming, I was still like, whoa! And me and Sam's sister were texting each other when she got to that part a little bit after I did. She was like, did you read this part already? What the heck? You know, like she was so flabbergasted by it. So that part was literally crazy. The fact that he took her body over, I felt like she was going to be able to fight it. I guess you see it coming because she's actively whatever. But when I read, if these are the last words I'd be able to say to him, or whatever it says. I don't remember what it says. But it's something like she's saying bye to Raven as he's leaving, and she's like, if these are the last words I was going to say to him, I would have said something else. I thought that it was going to say that he died, and I was going to lose my mind. Like, if he died when he rode off, I don't even know if I'd continue with the series, because I would be so upset if he died. So I was happy that he didn't die, and she ended up just getting taken by the monster or whatever, but I still feel, I don't know, I hope that within the second book that switches back relatively quickly, because the second that it's him talking through her, one, it creeps me out, and two, I already start to feel kind of a disconnect because it's like a whole new character to me, you know, because now he's the one that's taking over for her. I didn't expect for her to be, I thought they were going to be fully flipped. I thought that he was going to be the one making all the decisions and she was going to be the one in the back like whispering to him, but the fact that she's like full-blown sleeping and not present is kind of hard for me to like feel connected to because she's completely gone. So I don't know, it definitely creeps me out that she starts having yellow eyes though. That's a no for me. No. Spoiler section.
Spoilers.
When she was at the diner and that woman was talking to her, the waitress, and was like, yeah, look, she saw a ghost, I immediately was like, oh no. I didn't want it to be something paranormal. I wanted it to be something. Because
it makes it more creepy when it's real.
Yes. I always think that when it's real, it's creepier.
Because you're like, oh man.
So I'm glad that it did that. Frank guy though really creeped me out. Yeah. If anyone has watched Criminal Minds and the serial killer named Frank, who grabs people's ribs, I just kept imagining him, even though he's not the same way as the guy who described in the book. I just kept imagining him, and then I was getting more creeped out. But there isn't really much about this book that I would say in terms of spoilers. I feel like what you can say generally pretty much covers it. There wasn't anything super crazy that...
I think they did a very good job at showing why she had a hard time remembering certain things. And,
I remember what I was gonna say.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I remembered that I thought that it was really good that the reason the mom distrusted her was because of her sister, like the mom's sister, that there was mental health problems in the family. That was interesting because otherwise I think I would have started to get mad at the mom a lot sooner. Yeah. Like, why aren't you listening to her?
And then it did make sense, like, with her addiction, how the mom wasn't trusting of her just because of everything.
I do wish that we had gotten to see what happened to Frank.
I know, that kind of ended without, like, any real closure.
Yeah, it ended just, like, and everything was alright, but I don't know.
But, like, they're waiting to see if he gets arrested or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it left it open for a second book. I don't know how new this is, or if she's never going to have a second one. It was kind of open-ended-ish that she could have.
2023.
That's all you have to say for this book. I appreciate you guys watching. I would love, literally would love, if any of you would put video recommendations down below, because I have a lot of ideas. I mean, I just started my channel, so obviously I have a long way to go in terms of all the videos I could possibly do, but if there's anything that you can think of that you specifically want to see, or you specifically want us to do, try a new series, a specific book you think that we'd like, whatever the case may be, please let me know, because I would love to do that kind of stuff. I love, there's one person who is always commenting stuff, and whenever she asks for anything specifically, I just love it so much because it feels like a connection. It feels like, you know, there's something happening here. Like, I'm becoming a YouTuber, you know, I just love that. So if anyone's watching and you have an idea, please leave it. But that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you come back. Like, comment, subscribe, all the things that YouTubers say to you at the end of the video. And goodbye.